Okay, welcome to the regular council meeting of April 16th. It is now 7:03. And with that, we have just adjourned our closed portion of the meeting till later in the evening, and nothing to report out at this time. With that, we'll go to item number 4. I will call the meeting to order, and with that, we'll go to item number 4, which is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Moved.
Second. Any edits, adjustments?
I've got one add, I just sent to council earlier, on table, under new business. It's support for a resolution letter we received just before the meeting from the District of North Van Mayor. And it was to support their resolution going to the LGA and UBC.
Did you have a copy of that or?
It was distributed by email before the meeting. I didn't print it.
Okay, no problem. Can we?
Maria said she was going to share it on the screen. We discussed it earlier. Maria was going to. Is that okay? Or does someone need to go through it?
It's going to be on screen, right?
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
We can share that item on screen, or if council prefers, I can run down and get hard copies.
Sure, on screen's fine with me.
On screen is good. On screen is fine.
The delivery came 15 minutes before the meeting started.
Sure, I just didn't see it yet.
So we're proposing to add that to where?
New business.
New business.
Okay, any other edits, changes? All in favor?
Yes.
Adoption with the amendment?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Public participation, anyone in the gallery? Okay, we'll start at the back of the room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Gail Craig. Two things this evening. We saw on Zoom at 5:05 p.m. this evening that Paul Fripp of BDO was present on Zoom for the meeting. We can only assume that the 2023 financial statements audit may have been presented by Paul. We of course don't know this, as the 5 p.m. meeting was closed to the public, as was the same situation for the December 5th, 2023 meeting, when Paul and Mark of BDO presented the 2022 financial statements audit. Paul has done an excellent job for the village for many years of open audits for 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, and probably more before those. This is the first time that the public has not been able to see the village audit presentations take place in open meetings. Secondly, my letter to council is in the agenda package for tonight. However, the two files that I had attached with my letter are not included. One file was a comparison of the agendas and the missing minutes of the Finance and Audit Committee meetings from January 10, 2023 to April 27, 2023. Can you advise me why the comparison file and the other file of the minutes were not included with my letter?
Mr. Blackwell, or?
They're attached as a link on your correspondence.
I did try to launch them, but nothing launched.
Give it a try. When I sent out the agenda, it was a link, so.
Okay.
If that fix it.
Thank you. Any comments on the closed meetings, the audits?
Mr. Blackwell?
It's a struggle, right?
So it's not uncommon to have.
Yes, it is common. 2018.
Sorry, please allow him to answer the question. Thank you.
So it's not uncommon for an audit presentation by an auditor to be done in close, particularly when there are sensitive matters associated with that audit, which is the case here. The expectation is that council will rise with report when all matters that need to be dealt with of a confidential nature, to the extent that there might be, have been. And So I would anticipate council being able to rise and report and show them for the 2022 audit.
I did watch the audit, or sorry, the meeting of the finance committee where you did a verbal audit presentation. And at that time, it was stated that it was a good audit, there was nothing to report, nothing to be concerned about. So we would have expected to have been allowed to see, as we have in other years.
Okay, thank you, that's great. Any other speakers from the gallery? Sorry, you had your hand up. Candace, yes?
Follow up with my email that I have sent to all of you, and unfortunately no response. Regarding the parking committee, there are many issues that are going to be addressed to you. But right now, because the people are coming over there, and one thing which is ahead of all those problems, one thing is so serious and important, which is after 10 p.m. there is no restriction, no bylaw, no enforcement, and our life is under the threat, and for the people that are living over there, and just based on the robbery that we had before, and also about the peace that we could be able to rest and sleep. Unfortunately, all of you can sleeping, but we are not in the neighbors. I would like to see that what happened to the email that I have sent you. And this problem, the immediate problem, which is after 10, we have to close the parking lot. Because there is no other way that we can just live in peace. Nobody can stay there as a fire officer from 10 to 8 a.m. and therefore we can need a barrier and whatsoever. This is a life-threatening. Thank you. Respond, please.
Okay, I'll respond and others can jump in. Those task force reports were received by the council at the last meeting. And my understanding is that it will come forward to the council again here to either form committees, enact the recommendations, or get feedback from staff. This evening, there was a lot of items on the agenda, and staff had asked that that would be deferred. So that's my feedback.
How soon maybe we are going to have the resolution for this problem? That the parking lot after 10 p.m. is very dangerous for us that we are living over there. You have many things to do, okay, it is one of them, which is very important for our life.
And we hear you, and that's why we formed those task force, and we did come together. You were included in that for 90 days, and I think they were very positive, and now we need to move forward, and that'll be something that happens.
When we are going to receive the regarding this matter for closing the parking lot after 10 p.m. Even though I have a very simple question. I sent everybody that we are actually, you are the resident, I'm the resident. Why no one responded to me? What's going on? Respectfully, we respond to the people, and just thank you so much to you that for the task force, but what's the resolution? What's come on? Nothing?
They were presented to council, and the council now will need to give direction either to staff or direction of forming a committee for each of
I
these.
appreciate it.
And that, unfortunately, this evening, there's just a lot of items on the
Of
agenda,
course.
so I would
Would you-
anticipate, but this will be in discussions with staff on whether.
We need the barrier immediately, and then we talk about the parking committee. After 1.5 years, just when we are gonna have it, the people are coming. I can show you the pictures that what's going on over there. Please help us. I'm very lucky that it's gonna be recorded that I'm telling you that there is a problem after 10 p.m. Please do something about that. Otherwise, there will be some problem that all of you are going to be responsible. But we are going to be suffering for all these things, all the neighbors, but you are responsible.
Okay, Candace, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else in the gallery like to speak? Okay, anyone online? Marina? Oh, okay, delegations, we have Balanced Environmental Scott Christie, who has a family member and will not, family issues will not be attending. Mr. Council President.
I was really disappointed to see that Mr. Christie is not able to present. I think the matter that he's presenting on is really critical. And I'm hoping that we can reschedule with him at the earliest possible time. I think he's currently working on a contract, or pardon me, a plan for the beach park, for the beach jetty. And I think it's really critical that council understand, receive his presentation, and also really take addressing the possible damage to our infrastructure very, very seriously. And it's going to invoke one of our resilience experts in the village, but definitely there are individuals in the village with extraordinary knowledge on resiliency, and this is a matter we need to deal with. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm just hoping that we could have a special council meeting to meet with Mr. Christie.
Mr. Christie is a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and it would be nice for him to attend and speak with council, but so we'll try to arrange that, or staff will arrange that, so
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Zoom. Whatever.
Okay. No other delegations. We'll move to item number 7, approval of the minutes for our meeting, special meeting of March 12th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second. Okay, discussion, edits. Okay, so no changes. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, carried. Okay, the regular meeting minutes of March 19th, 2024.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
page 12, item 10B. It indicates that the minutes are very precious, and I agree that they are precious, but I believe the word intended was previous.
Okay, any other amendments?
Yeah, I've got an amendment on page 11, under 4, on the adoption of the agenda. It says that the on-table item that I brought was somehow subject, right, that it was a verbal report. Now, I went back and reviewed the video extensively, and although the words verbal report were mentioned by the CAO at the time of the adoption, when the agenda was actually adopted, it was not adopted with that proviso in place. Accordingly, I would like the written materials that I added to the agenda, which I supplied to council more than 24 hours in advance, added to the record. Because that item was, at the time of adoption, not adopted as a verbal report. So I would like that, the verbal report struck, because that is not how this occurred. And also accordingly on page 13, under B, I would like the word verbal struck from there as well. I mean, I did present it verbally, but it wasn't a verbal report. It was a report, and it was added to the agenda.
Could we add the headings to those, just so that they're a little clearer? And I know we've got 10C4. Is there a way to add a heading and then maybe with the 10C4 in brackets? Just so that's a little, yeah, that's under the adoption of the agenda.
I can
Page.
make the headings, yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks.
So what I'm asking for is on page 11, under 4, that the word verbal be struck and that the written materials as I added them to the agenda be added to the record and show on the website as on table items, as is usually the case. And then on page 13, that the word verbal be struck.
Okay, was that the same report or verbal report that Councillor Broughton, I think 4 times called out of order for incorrect information? And if so, Should we reference that as well?
Well, then we would have to reference rebuttal information. We'd probably better not be going down that road. I'm just asking that the word verbal be struck and that the materials be added to the record.
I'm good with that.
Okay, the reason I bring that up is because Councillor Broughton interjected 4 times and claimed that there was inaccurate information. So if we publish a report like that on the record that's inaccurate, that should at least have some sort of rebuttal, but I'll defer that to Councillor Broughton as he was the one who interjected.
Well, I certainly have, some discomfort having inaccurate information appended to the agenda. I think a comment that I identified that it was inaccurate, would be
Well, hang on,
effective.
it wasn't, you believe it's inaccurate, Michael. It's not-
That's right. That's why I said.
Not that it is inaccurate, your opinion is inaccurate.
And you stated that as a matter of fact.
Yeah, so
and
what's
that-
up?
That's in the record.
Sorry, can you raise your hand if you'd like to speak? Thank you. Councillor Cunliffe.
I believe the guidance that was given to us by our provincial advisors was that the minutes were supposed to reflect essentially a brief summary of what happened, and all of that exchange is in the public record on camera and recorded for anybody who wants to drill down a little deeper into the fine details of the meeting. I don't think this is a good use of time.
So
Mr. Blackwell,
Yes.
can you comment on that?
I would say through you to council that a lot of what you receive is inaccurate. And so your agendas would be quite slim indeed if you had to remove items that were inaccurate. So it is what it is. It's not a document that was generated by any member of council. So to the extent that it might be inaccurate, that objection is on the recording. I think having it captured as merely an expression of voices in the community, whether it be accurate or inaccurate, is all it needs to matter in this case.
Okay, call the question. All in favor of approving those minutes?
just the amended minutes with my asks in there, that the 2 phrases verbal be removed and that the report be added to the record and be available on the website as an on-table item conventionally is.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Um,
Or calling the question? Councillor Broughton, did you have some other comments?
Actually, well, I have a matter arising from the minutes.
And we call the question. Michael.
Okay, we're
Yes,
calling the
you-
question. All in favor?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, opposed? Motion carried. Okay. We'll move to business rising for minutes.
Okay, could I,
Councillor Broughton.
on page 15, there was a report out regarding the 3 different work task forces. And at the time, there was discussion about the highway noise task force. And there was my understanding was that where council was looking to operationalize some of the information that was identified by these task groups. And so certainly looking at the tape, the council was very favorable to there being the formation of a highway noise task force committee, or highway noise committee, I should say. Now that committee has not as yet been struck, and all the technical work to set up an actual committee is not yet in place. However, there is some real concerns in terms of timeliness that some of the items that were identified by the task force, including seeking support from Miller Capilano to move ahead with the quiet pavement and seeking the RCMP support, and also moving towards sound marketing. I would ask council if for support in small group of willing volunteers to pursue information, do the research needed to make a recommendation to council of the next opportunity to move forward with this. Now, I'd be willing to work with that group. And I believe the group also had approached Councillor Cunliffe to see if she'd be interested in working with the group. I think they emailed it today, actually. I was notified of that today. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So anyway, I'm sort of surprised to hear with that. But I just think, time is of the essence with this. If there's a way that we can operationalize some of the outcomes that came from the working groups. It's not active decision making, it's pursuing and collecting more information and supporting the residents who have expressed profound concerns about sound levels on the highway.
Okay.
So if council is comfortable with the numbers of residents getting together, finding it, getting the information, doing the research and bringing it to council.
Okay, and you're offering to lead that
Yeah.
or with Councillor Cunliffe if available after you review the information, because this is all new.
When she's got a chance to look at her email.
Yeah, okay.
Certainly, she'd be more than welcome, and
Yeah.
if they were looking to add a little more horsepower to the
Mhm.
committee by having two councillors
Okay,
committed to it.
I'm fine with that.
I think we were expecting to have a fulsome conversation led by the CAO about committees and task force and how they're supposed to all be put together. So we can start doing things with council direction, with governance. I would like to see that happen. And let's get all these things in the right place, get council direction from them, decide how council's going to direct them, who from council's going to be there. So, yeah, I think that's a matter of priority, rather than, nothing to say that some group of residents can't continue to do research. But then when this starts becoming another task force that's not formed properly, that becomes problematic for me.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I think we've been doing a lot of talking about formation of committees and structures around that, and it's the residents been coming to us for months and months and months asking for outcome, and I think we have to try to create outcome in any way we can, and certainly, so I fully support the concerns that have been raised around the formation of committees and the formation of task forces and so on. And, we need to commit the time to do that. Right now, we've been focused, the last number of weeks, we've been focused on budget and other very serious matters as well. But I think this will be a useful way to use some of that incredible volunteer energy that's out there.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Okay, just observation to council. So in my experience, there's a slippery slope with regard to items that need to be taken care of in any municipality I've been involved with, either as a consultant or as a staff person. And but if not structured and managed thoughtfully, it can quickly become a scenario where staff, council, the community finds itself drinking out of a fire hose instead of a garden hose. Just too much to do. We're pulled in every different direction, answering this inquiry, answering that inquiry, and so on and so forth. So my recommendation to council is to not jump at these opportunities. It's far wiser to take a tactful approach in managing workload through the establishment of your development of your council strategic plan, within which you're gonna have to set priorities. Here are the things we're gonna do for this year and for the remaining years in our term, which means you're gonna have to consciously not do certain things, and that can be very hard. It can be hard politically, it can be hard for the community, but sort of triaging everything like a buffet table is just not, it's not tenable. So I think a more strategic approach in organizing all of these competing interests is gonna serve the community and through the community, as community council, the best, and ultimately, I guess, staff as well for that.
Okay, Councillor Brunton, I think I'm hearing that Mr. Blackwell would like to defer to a more strategic meeting. Any comments before we move on?
Well, I fully support us pursuing a strategic plan and really, you know, working within that. This council has not been able to bring that together in 16 or 18 months, or 16 months, I guess. So I'm just, you know, so there's some urgent matters that I think we'll deal with this as effectively as we can. So.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next item.
Sorry, Meadow Rising, so I've got one as well.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Page 13, this is about the fire water report, and we said the report we referred to the infrastructure committee meeting. So that did happen, we did discuss it at the infrastructure committee meeting. The IC agreed with the public works yards manager's assessment of the risk and possibility of running out of water, what that would look like. So they agreed with that assessment. Not their place to decide what to do about it. But you know, they did agree that technically how it was described, what happens if you run out of water is what's likely to occur. And you know, they felt, and I think we've discussed someone else in the meeting, that you know, the decision as to what to do needs to go to the EPC, Emergency Planning Committee, to decide what to do in that event.
Okay, can we put that on our action list?
Yep.
Mr. Blackwell?
Through you to all of council, just a reminder that staff will pull together a working group to come up with a drought response plan in the situation. It's wrong, we should call it drought, but maybe change it to water shortage. Water shortage, well, it's less than water, no water. No water meeting, committee meeting, whatever the hell we call it, with various representatives, so that we are in a position to pre-plan and plan for that worst case scenario. Hopefully, Mr. Burr has been so diligent in resolving the issue around leaks that it'll all be fine, we'll all live happily ever after. But in the event that that doesn't happen, we will be well positioned to manage optimally in that worst case scenario.
Okay, thanks for that update. Any other comments? No? Okay, we'll move to staff reports, item 10A1, and Mr. Kirchhoff.
Are we skipping over 9?
Unfinished business.
Sorry.
We did,
Oh,
apologies. We're gonna backtrack to 9, and that would be found on page 18, the schedule of tasks, I believe. Okay, we'll go to, well, first of all, is there any items on the list that councillors would like to bring forward?
Two.
Councillor Abbott?
Item 306, rain barrels, item to be considered by the CAC, so that's happened. And the CAC didn't believe there was anything to recommend to council. But they did publicize something in the watershed promoting the various opportunities available to people and rain barrels and where to get them and so on. And so that was published in the watershed, but you can strike that one.
Okay.
This one outside as of this week, I believe.
There's one outside that's not hooked up, that's been there, we had it out there a few years ago as a promotional item, doesn't do much, but.
Okay, any other items?
I've got one other.
Uh-huh.
Item 312, I'm gonna go back to DC Nature, this is about the municipal protected areas project, the mapping. I went back to them, I've discussed it with them, they need a GIS layer. I can talk to Carl, some of the staff afterwards, and I still understand why it's so difficult. If you give someone coordinates, they can create a GIS layer. I've also reached out to, House and, Biosphere to see if they have something on one of their layers. So it's still an ongoing action, but I have made some progress.
Okay, any other items? Okay, I'll just, 310, which is rescope the connector project. The task force delivered its report. Mr. Burr, any update from your end, with TransLink discussions?
I'll defer to the CAO if I may, he has my report.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. So, yeah, what we are doing is assessing this at the staff level in terms of what options are available at the staff level to operationalize, and we'll be having a conversation with the funder to assess their expectations. And then we will compare one against the other and see what items, if any, are able to deliver.
Okay, thank you for that. One other item, 298, call for EPC meeting, it's Mr. Blackwell. Down there, any progress on the meeting schedule?
Thank you. So this sits squarely with Mr. Fulkerson, who is away out of the province right now, dealing with a family matter. With regard to calling the meeting, the ball rests with him. He is working behind the scenes to move things to a point where there can be a meaningful meeting. So when I hear of anything imminent from him, and I am in reasonably frequent contact with him, I will update council.
Okay, any other items council would like to bring forward on action list? No? Okay, we'll move to item number 10A1, and Mr. Cherkoff, back to you.
So what we have before, here, I'm starting on page 19, our listing of payments made in the first quarter. We expended $726,000 in funds. Big ticket items, our annual insurance renewal with MIABC, which was about $105,000. And then $17,000 for pollution insurance, and that's for a 3-year coverage. There was.
Councilor Allen?
As we go, seeing you, the insurance one struck me as odd, $105,000 sounded
Yeah, me
really
too.
high. I went and looked at your budget, we're only budgeting 54,000. Why is it double the budget?
The insurance is spread across the different departments, so we're gonna get them all together. So last year we spent, it was like 99,000 in total. So it's just how it's allocated in departments. But I can give you a kind of a summary of where everything goes.
Well, didn't realize we paid that much for insurance.
So it's annually, yeah.
So the line item I was looking at was administration fund, so there's other insurances in other places. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that, that sounds really nice.
Sure. Yeah, that's baseline, and it's kind of like 10% or something like that from last year.
Wow.
The charges.
Joe, can I just ask, what is the ADD legal HR line description referred to on that 105?
Property equipment, accidental death and disability. Then the legal HR, the regular coverages that we have every year.
And what's the line item below that, the FN conference?
The $375?
Yep.
So, I believe that's our annual renewal for MIA as a member, but I can check that for you.
Okay.
The other rather larger items in the cable listing, there's $52,000 expended on the Pride Trail that's been refunded from the province. And there is one item for $14,000, which is a one-time item for a consultant for accounting for asset retirement obligations. This is a new financial reporting standard that's in effect for us for the year ended 2023. And that's not going to need to be incurred again. That I think covers my notes. There's one item for on the last page of this report was the translate tax payment for $39,534. We pay that every single year. In January, we file a tax return with translate, just basically paying them for the amounts we collect on their behalf from our parking meters. That's all I have for you. If there's anything specific in this listing, I don't have all details right in my head. Unfortunately, I don't have a photographic memory, but if there's anything that in particular otherwise that you'd like me to follow up on and give you some additional detail on, please email me, and I'm happy to.
Could I just ask if the invasive species council payment, $9,500, is that annually or is that by twice a year?
Invasive Species Council, that is annually. And so we are currently discussing whether or not we're going to incur that for 2024. This is for last year.
That's for last year, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. Okay, and also Sea to Sky IT, the building there seems quite high.
Mr. Burke has been an ongoing project, but particularly repurposing or our consultants or how they interact with us. But yeah, it's effectively their annual billings constitutes a full-time position for the municipality.
Joe, question? It's a small item, but right at the second item from the bottom, Young Anderson audit letter review, what would that be?
Oh, so in the course of the audit, they're required to confirm with council if there have been any sort of claims or contingencies. They're required to update their confirmation with each councillor within 5 days of the audit report. So that was a letter or an email to confirm to Young Anderson that there have been no changes to their original letter.
So we go back to each legal firm that we use. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, okay, Mr. Cherkoff, you move item 2.
Grant and aid applications, so staff, Ms. Jeffrey, would like above and beyond this year in creating a fillable PDF to simplify applications for residents. People that are applying for grants from the municipality are generally the same as last year. There were 3 new ones and then one that wasn't from there. So the Trailblazers got to apply for one as they had received some money. So effectively, last year, what we're reporting now is the request in cash and factoring in a cost for donations in kind, which represents, say, we provide access to the hall for free. But there is a value to that time, and so we report that to track, where we're utilizing that resource. So the cash request with the 3 new applicants was $11,595. Last year it was $990, or almost $10,000, so $1,500 more. And the requests are all noted in detail in the company pages.
And the last line reads, what's that supposed to read? A proposed budget for grant and aid is line of?
I believe that's a typo.
What should we be reading then?
Is in line with, a proposed budget for grant and aid is in line with the budget. I think it's the
Okay.
Okay, anything further or any questions? Cherkoff, no?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay,
Question.
Councillor Abbott.
I couldn't find in this package, you said there's 3 new ones, I couldn't find them in the house sound revival. Can someone tell me what that's about? It's $3,000. It's certainly new, and it's a big ask. It explains all of the overrun from last, all of the increase from last year.
I will have.
And it's not in the package.
Right, permit display, yeah, I'm not sure why it's not.
So I think maybe if you look at the package.
Mr. Blackwell.
Sorry, when you finish.
Sure, there was an email earlier, I think there's a whole bunch of stuff in the package, it seems to have got mixed up, jumbled up somehow, but that one is a big number, it's not there.
I will note that and I will send an email to council with the attachment for that application.
Mr. Blackwell, you had some comments?
Yeah, so this is an awkward sort of thing to debate in an open meeting of council around who gets allocated funds, grant aid funds and so forth. A lot of local governments will strike a committee, the grant aid committee, who report and do the assessment, the investigation and so forth into the details and provide recommendations to council. So that council doesn't have to get into the weeds at a council meeting. So debating what should be eligible, what shouldn't be, is really not a good use of a council meeting. It's better as a committee of the whole, but even better still if council in the future that considers establishing grant and aid committee to vet these things.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? Okay, we'll move to
It's not it.
Councillor Abbott.
I think we need to review this report. Okay, so this is the Tai Chi thing, and it's down here as nothing, not $3,000. It's down here as only $3,000 in kind. That's something else.
We follow up with that.
Could we
Okay,
perhaps,
why don't we take that offline and perhaps you can follow up.
well, perhaps we could have this come before us again, or if that's possible, in a more ordered fashion?
Mr. Blackwell.
Well, I recommend this just simply come to committee of the whole, and because you don't have a grant aid committee, at least bring it to committee of the whole at council.
Okay.
Support that.
Okay, we'll move to item 10.3, Public Works Manager, ICBC in-service review report. Mr. Burr, anything specific you'd like to highlight for us?
Thank you. Other than to thank ICBC formally for their fairly excellent work. It was far more in depth than I was anticipating. I asked them to come in to look at 3 troublesome intersections. They went way beyond that brief. The idea is that we will take that as sort of operational justification for some signage and paint changes. When we do the stop sign changes for the railway crossings and a variety of other things that we know are needed. You may have noticed that the final touch-up phase 4 of BA Blacktops work was done today. And so now we're ready for center lines and fog lines in various places. So the timing is excellent. So that's about the essence of it.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for Mr. Burr?
Yeah, I've got a question. The subject of the off-ramp off the highway was interesting to me. I mean, it's been my observations that we Canadians always have trouble with on and off ramps. Sometimes we read yield signs as stop signs. I don't know how many times I've almost run into somebody who doesn't know how to use an on-ramp as a coming up to speed situation. The idea of, if I understand this correctly, of putting I already find the yield sign there problematic.
It's very odd.
Yes, I would like to see traffic that's coming off the highway, get off the highway, and I'd rather be yielding coming up from the bottom.
That particular intersection is in Modi's jurisdiction, administered by Miller Capilano. I am talking to them. They are quite protective of the way they've done things, so it's going to take a while, but you'll notice that ICBC specifically said there's 1 too many yield signs,
Right.
Maybe even 2 too many yield signs. So there's some work to be done there. For example, the stop sign where you come off the highway northbound at Lions Bay Avenue to turn left back under the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Many people, ICPC included, said that stop sign looks like it's for the uphill direction as well. So they want a little sign that says stop line, and the stop line painted to mark the standards. So yeah, there's work to be done. but that's more, carefully handled, dance with our friends at Millicap.
Right, yeah, I mean, I can't think of the amount of times where I've been coming off there. And the sight line to look down and to yield to traffic coming up is absurd. I would much prefer to have traffic just come off and get up and then stop to turn left. That makes a lot of sense, because I can, if I'm crawling up that hill, I can see who's coming off the off ramp.
We're working with them on it.
Yeah, okay.
Which a lot of people do anyway, they just boot up there, most people do.
Okay.
I just got one comment, so
Councillor
you
Abbott.
said you're gonna use judgment as to what to put in about this. I mean, delineators down the middle of a road, it just sounds like a maintenance issue, snow plowing, cost sink. We're not gonna do
That,
things
for
like-
example, is one we will not be doing.
Okay,
Just too difficult. I fully expect they'll get taken out within a day and make snow plowing. They did ask about the snow plowing issues, and we can work around them. They're very worried about this intersection here, because it is all wrong, but we'll probably just end up changing some paint.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Burke? No, okay, we'll move on to item 10D, committees, and we'll move to Councillor Abbott. If you can highlight anything specific you'd like to touch on in B1, 2, and 3, please.
okay, well, I'll just go through it really quickly. I won't obviously read the report. So we've had 2 meetings this month, one infrastructure committee. I've touched on infrastructure committee, reviewed the firefighting water use, as suggested by the workshop manager. What also presented at that meeting was a discussion on water metering by one of the CAC members who's in the audience this evening. And then has had some discussion, and we have an item on there later down the agenda tonight. So maybe I'll just reserve any comments I think they may have had for that meeting, for that part of the meeting. On the CAC stuff, once again, that's where the water meeting started. And I have discussed with the workshop manager that there's this news report about a $50 million grant opportunity being out there for piloting water metering, and he's looking into that or keeping an eye open for when that comes to light. There were a few other items that the Climate Action Committee asked me to bring up or bring to staff, which are on this report. Staff want to get back to me on these separately. I'm assuming they've been looked at and addressed. And we can do that if you wish separately, but I am looking for a response. I don't need to go through them, or was the report being read, and is there an action coming back?
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, through you to Councillor Abbott. No, I have not read the report yet, but I will be, and we will be taking a closer look at those items in there.
Okay, so maybe we can get answers back on those, and then we can see which ones need to go out and finish business orders. Things like what are we doing about step code, with the carrot report for this year. There's a list of it, all on page 118.
Mr. Cherkoff.
If I may, the mayor, I did attend a GCAP seminar today regarding reporting for the next
Okay.
year. I can distribute the PDF slides. They'll be made available in the next week or so to the members of the committee. Recording templates will be available May 1st.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for saying LG cap, not carrot.
Yeah.
The reason I said carrot is because actually carrot isn't reported. Not to confuse it, the ask here is we used to get data from the works department about how much fuel we burned for the carrot report. The CAC would still like to get that data so they can continue to benchmark where things are improving, even though we're not doing a carrot report anymore. So can we still do? That's the request there. So don't confuse the carrot and the LG cap. Remember, that's a function that Joe might do. Okay, all right, I'll leave the rest of them. I won't go through each one of them. Oh, sorry, there was one. There's just one we need to discuss, and maybe this workshop manager as well. So assuming the budget gets approved in due course, and we are going ahead with the mini recycling station, the committee wanted to start making plans to promote that. The timing around that is at the annual bird friendly event, which, as everyone who has been knows, it's not just about bird friendly, it's about all the environmental groups in the village. They wanted to roll out or present what the future of the mini recycling depot could look like. And in their mind, could we have it operational by 1st of June, throughout the day they threw out. So I don't know if you need to go think about that and get back to me, but that is something that is time bound because the bird friendly event's on the 11th of May. So they'd like to be talking about at that event about when the recycling depot will be in action.
Well, if I may, through the chair, I've done absolutely no thinking about it. I'm waiting for plans to be presented, footprints, which things are to be collected, what they're going to be collected in. If you want public works, not works yard manager, by the way, it's public works manager, totally different. If you want public works to design it, it's the first I've heard of it, and I'm not going to get it done by this May.
Okay, so we need to initiate a conversation with waste collection services, waste control services.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Just as a reminder to council, this sort of level of detail is best for committee of the whole discussions. So,
You asked me to submit a report, I'll put it in a report. So, okay,
Okay, perhaps we can take that offline and get a little bit more detail.
okay,
Bring it
Sure.
back. Okay, we'll move to item number 5, and Councillor Abbott, the infrastructure committee, any highlights?
I think I've just done both of them.
Okay. All right, item number 6, finance committee, audit minutes, no highlights from myself. Okay, Councillor Abbott, back to you on the Curly Stewart Memorial Trust Fund. Any highlights there?
No, I'll just questions if there are. Can I just go back to the finance committee?
Mhm.
I noticed we don't have any closed minutes for the finance committee. The beach park also has minutes, but no closed minutes. Both of those committees go into closed. Should we not be having minutes in the closed section for those meetings?
We should, and we'll have to talk to staff and make those available.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Councillor Abbott, Curly Stewart Memorial, any highlights on that?
No, just questions if anyone's got them.
Okay. All right, item number 8, Councillor Broughton, any highlights on the Lions Bay Beach Park?
I think the minutes are fairly self-explanatory. The beach park rollout is now in the hands of staff as a result of. And whether the CEO has any comment at this point, I think there's a number of matters that information will be coming forward shortly, but I don't think we're in a position to be discussing anything at length.
Okay, any questions on item number 8, 9, and 10?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Okay, Councillor Reuter.
So on page 143, and this is as to the minutes of February 7th, we see here that it was advised in reference to the jetty that it has not been taken out of the project and that the committee would like to have the jetty in and the kayak storage. And there's a request to reverse the decision that council had made to remove the jetty. So the question I have is, why did we have the chair of the committee in front of us advising us that the committee's recommendation was to remove the jetty when the minutes, in fact, reflect the opposite? Could we consider respecting the work of all the volunteers on the beach park committee and going with their recommendation and removing that out of the budget and funding it as per at least a portion of it, whatever we can do, at the 73% grant funded rate as opposed to 100% on taxpayers? This was the recommendation of the committee. We see it right here on page 143.
I would have to say.
Councillor Summer.
That must be an error because the committee did not advise to.
Let me stop you.
Councillor Abbott.
Okay, it says at the top of this that Councillor Abbott was in the meeting. I was in the meeting. I went in the meeting. I asked the question very clearly. I got told to sit down and got explained to me that the committee did not, they were adamant. They did not recommend removing the jetty. And then we went into closed and it came up again, which I can't discuss here. That's why I was asking, do we have a copy of the closed minutes? But they were adamant that they did not request the jetty removed.
I
That should be
recall this
corrected.
conversation,
Yeah.
the whole conversation was confusing, to say the least, so.
Can I just,
that's-
I'll just bring up one point. If we're looking at 25 dollar, 25%, there is an opportunity, and I think it's being followed up by our staff, that the jetty may fall within the connector project. So it wouldn't be 100% funded by the village, it'd be 25%. But that hasn't been decided. I think that's still being worked on by staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
These are draft minutes, and the committee has not met subsequent to these meetings to vet these minutes. The last meeting that was held, I believe, I was out of the country, so there is a bit of confusion here. The fact that the committee definitely wants the jetty to be done, there's no question about that. But what they were looking at was in discussions with the province recommended that everything that was on the list could not be done with the funds that were available, and that they needed to really focus on things that they could zero in on and get done. And so that in good faith, they were working with that. Absolutely, the jetty needs to be done. As I spoke to earlier in this meeting, you know, my concern about Mr. Christie not being able to attend here and really get the importance of the jetty being remedied, dealt with. So yes, I did not bring these minutes forward to this meeting, but once the committee meets again, we can certainly go through and review and clarify these minutes. However, the committee at this point is standing down, as the work that it was doing has now been passed over by council to staff.
Could I jump in here?
Okay, Councillor Ryder.
As far as I understand it, the Beach Park Committee is no longer in existence, so I don't know how these minutes would get approved. These are the minutes. Councillor Abbott was there, and yes, it may be the case that perhaps some kind of funding could be procured for the jetty or pier or breakwater through a connector endeavor, but we have something on the ground, and again, this is, I don't see any reason why we're questioning these minutes. That was the recommendation of the committee, which was at variance as to what you presented here. It's that simple.
Councillor Cullen.
If I may, I think that this conversation is going in a circle that we have had many times, and the beach park, in discussion with the province and the grant, it was recognized that the funds that we had allocated were not going to be robust enough to cover the initial plan and all of the hope and wishes that were asked for. And it was recommended that we focus on what we could complete and look to apply for other forms of grants for things like the jetty and like the kayak rack. But the jetty, as far as completion at the same time as the rest of the beach park, there was consensus among the committee that it was not going to happen. So I think that we're just having the same conversation over and over again.
Just one point of clarification. Councillor Reuter has indicated the beach park committee has been disbanded, and that's not my understanding, so I'm not sure why that's his understanding. However, it is definitely standing down, as the work that they put forward has been passed over to staff. But I would certainly see a time in the future where the committee may be called to address other beach park issues. but it's not currently active. However, it
Sure.
has not been disbanded.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blackwell, we'll go to you, because my understanding is the beach park is now with staff,
The project.
the project.
Beach Park Revitalization Project, yeah.
So what I would advise council on is that this is a committee of council and it's up to council to decide when a committee is dissolved. So whether or not a committee meets is a function of the will of the chair relative to information that it needs to be considered by a committee. So that means a committee can be inactive for any length of time, but technically the committee still exists. And in that context, any outstanding minutes, sooner or later, before that council decides to deactivate, I can't think of the word that I just said, but call it that. The committee dissolved, thank you, yeah, it'll have to make sure that all of these are just.
Okay, so some housekeeping where we dissolve that. Councillor,
One last word on this. I believe the way that this is accurate, Michael, you were in the room. The question was asked if you would bring that back to council to reverse it. I thought you seemed to be in agreement because you didn't argue with it. My take is you're not bringing that back to council to have that decision reversed. Is that the final statement?
No, I'm not making a final statement. I'm not clear
In the
exactly what you're
meeting-
saying or why we're discussing it.
Because it's in the minutes here.
Yeah,
And in the
and I've
meeting,
already dealt with that.
how have you dealt with it? In the meeting, members of the committee told me that they had never recommended that. The question was asked if you would bring that back to council to have that decision taken to council. A resolution taken to council based on the Beach Park Committee's request to remove the jetty from the Beach Park budget. The question was asked, would you bring that back to council to have that reversed? I thought you were in agreement. Are you telling me you're not bringing it back to have it reversed? You're not interested in rescinding that resolution? Is that what you're
okay,
saying?
Councillor Abbott?
May I suggest that this conversation would probably be better had once these minutes go back to the committee to be reviewed by the committee members and then adopted for clarification, because what is going on is not clear and we have draft minutes that the committee members have not actually approved. So I don't feel that this is a good.
Okay, we're going around in circles, so,
I think I've been very clear in my position on the jetty and funding of the jetty and given background as to the province's involvement. We now have the province approve the scope as was provided them, the altered scope. And and it's now in the hands of staff.
okay.
Just a minute here.
All right,
Where's that approval?
Councillor Ryder, one last comment, and then we'll.
Where's the
we'll move on.
approval from the province that you're referring to?
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. So this has been directed to staff. So I would suggest to council you leave it with staff and not prosecute the issue. You should just take a quick look at your agenda and the significant items that are before you and look at the time.
Okay. All right, we'll move to item number C, mayor and council, and it's item, Councilor Reuter, provide an update on the request to the exemption to the speculation vacancy tax.
Yeah, I'll just try to move through this briefly. You all recall on October 17th, we passed a motion to request an exemption. That letter was finally sent out on February 1st. That's attached. And the province has responded. And you'll find that on page 158. And I'll leave it to, I guess I'm looking for some direction here.
Can you hit on the highlights of that response?
Well, it's hard to find the highlights in there.
I think they said no.
Yeah, they said no in a various ways. A number of factors are taken into consideration. I would venture to say they didn't address the arguments provided directly, but that's not entirely surprising. One area though that I want to bring to your attention, sorry, Nelly, you had a comment?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It refers to a letter dated December the 4th, 2023 that was sent to the mayor.
Yeah, I'm just gonna speak to that. So, it refers in here to a letter, so you'll recall, October 17th, we passed the resolution. We knew that, in the very possible event that we're not successful, that residents will soon be receiving letters. The letter, unfortunately, the outgoing letter was delayed by 3.5 months, I think. But what the letter from the finance minister indicates is that a letter, and this goes to section 141 of the act, was sent to the mayor on December 4th. Now, you'll recall in the original presentation, I mean, that's a stipulation of the act. In 2022, the mayor had received a call, but it appears in December of 2023, the minister actually sent a letter as per the requirements. So I'm seeking council direction here and also asking a question, and I'm just perplexed because given that we've unanimously passed this resolution to seek an exemption, I have not seen this letter. I don't know if the rest of council has, but it seems to me that that is a critical piece of information. And at that juncture, before the letter had been sent out, where and how did this consultation occur? What kind of input was given? I don't recall it coming to council. I certainly hope that this initiative here, as much as it is quixotic, and I've always said that, hasn't fallen into some sort of political trap. So perhaps the mayor could address what this letter is, what this consultation was, what was exchanged. I would have hoped to have heard from that, given that I was the lead on this.
Okay, I don't recall.
Point of information.
Yeah.
Could you explain what a
Councilor.
quixotic?
Quixotic, that is a struggle where you tilt against windmills,
Oh,
like Don Quixote.
thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't recall this letter. I do recall that you've been looking after this file for the last year or so. I do recall the 3.5 delay in the response was you weren't satisfied with the mayor signing off and you had to sign off yourself, which was fine. I had no issues with that, but you know, delays, you've been handling this file. I think this has been on the action list every meeting for I don't know how long going back, so.
yeah, just, I guess
I'll leave it at that.
my question is if a letter comes in as to consultation with the mayor on this issue, which we unanimously voted on, and it came in on December 4th, how did you respond to the province?
As I say, I don't recall seeing that letter. What I do recall is you had this file for the last year or more. It's been on the action list every single meeting that we've had, and there was really virtually no updates other than when you had the opportunity to return a letter, or I was asked with the resolution from council. I penned that letter and staff will confirm that you were not happy and satisfied with that letter, so that you wanted to pen that yourself, which you did. I had no problem with that. Not a problem. Councilor Abbott?
Can you look in your emails and records and send?
Sure, I'll
Can
bid
you
that.
send that before later?
I'll
Thank you.
I'll look into that. Yeah.
So again, I just want to say that I hope you take this issue as seriously now as you did when you voted for it. And any consultation with the finance minister, I would have thought that you would remember something like that.
I remember you had this file for the last year and there was really no progress on it, and that was a little bit disappointing. Councilor,
Did you get some information from the province, and where is it?
as we said, I don't recall that.
That's astounding and astonishing and very disappointing. Please look a little more deeply, and because I would hate to see this fumble because you weren't able to satisfy the consultation requirements as per the act.
Okay, Councilor
Could I
Brown?
ask Councillor Reuter to consider his tone and consider the fact that this is a council table?
Okay, thank you.
And demonstrate deportment appropriate to the table.
Okay, anything further on that subject?
Yeah, I would just say, please, could you bring back to council the letter from the finance ministry and any communication that you've had with them, and supply this information to council?
I understand you're disappointed, as we all are. Councilor Reuter, you had this file for a year, and it didn't make much progress. Finally, you were able to send off that letter,
Yeah.
3.5 months late. And unfortunately, the response is disappointing for everyone, so thank you.
Could you answer
Okay,
the
we'll
question
move
I
on
asked?
to-
Can you supply
we'll move
the
on to-
council with the
Okay.
letter?
Counselor
Could you do
Reuter,
that?
please, let's remember the importance of respectful conduct here and the council procedures, and it's crucial. These meetings are productive and we focus on the business of the community.
And this is
So,
one piece of it.
okay, Counselor Abbott,
I think there's a simple request if you can send.
and I said I don't recall it, I'll look into it, I answered
Yes.
that to you.
But you
So
know,
if we
that's-
can continue to
I don't-
move forward and get on with the
I
business
heard
of
the
the community.
response, the
Councillor
response,
Broughton?
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I did
it's
hear
fine.
that response, that
Let's
you
move
would,
on.
that you would secure it and that you would share it. I heard that.
Okay, good enough. Okay, we'll move on to item number D, emergency fire and rescue dispatch report for information. Any questions? I don't see we have the fire chief here this evening, so any questions on that report? No, we'll take it for information. The item number 2D2 is the RCMP report for information. Any questions, comments? No, okay, we'll move to item number 11, resolutions. The item is the AECom 911, and the recommendation is that council, that the Village of Lions Bay nominates Mayor Mike Little of the District of North Vancouver to represent the Village of Lions Bay on the ECOM Board of Directors for the 2024 and 2025 term. These go year by year. Such board to be appointed by ECOM shareholders at the June 20th, 2024 annual general meeting. We have a motion.
Move forward.
Okay, second.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
So just
Opposed?
to speak to that, my understanding is that the recommendation was to maintain, that they're having difficulty maintaining continuity and Mayor Little serving on the board would provide that continuity, so it seems like a very strong idea.
Yeah, he's very experienced. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 11B, noise relaxation request. Recommendation that council grant an exemption to the noise bylaw number 283 dated 1998 to allow for the events with amplified sound between the hours of 8 AM and 11 PM at the Broughton Hall for the following dates: April 19th, 2024, May 17th, June 21st, July 19th, August 16th, and September 20th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, comments, questions? All in favor?
Well, just one comment, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of these now. I think there's a lot more than we've ever had before. But I haven't heard any complaints from immediate residents. So, yeah, I think it's okay to go ahead until such thing happens. But I think we should all acknowledge that there seems to be a lot more noise events in the hall this year than previously. They've been like a couple of months now.
I think we should be
Councillor
celebrating that. I think we should be celebrating that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Yes, opposed, carried. Okay, item 12, bylaws, water rates and regulations bylaw number 2, 1971, amendment bylaw number 636, dated 2024, recommendation that water rates and regulations bylaw number 2, 1971, and amendment bylaw number 636, 2024 be introduced and read for the first, second, and third time. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
Move.
item 12B,
Can we move all three at the same time, or do we need to move it?
Individually.
Sorry,
Individually.
individually? Move it, that it be moved, I move, it be read a second time.
okay, second,
Sorry.
sorry,
I misunderstood what you were saying.
Okay,
No, this is moving all three readings.
okay, thank you. Just to be clear. Thank
okay,
you.
great. Item 12B, sewer user rates bylaw number 122, 1984, amendment bylaw number 634, 2024. Recommendation that sewer user rates bylaw number 122 1984 amendment bylaw number 634 dated 2024 be introduced and read for the first, second, and third time. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion, comments?
Yeah, just one comment that it jumped out at me, this is a little higher than in previous years, and I don't pay this bill, and anyone else at the table does. So I wanted a quick look at the budget, and I think it's somewhat to do with allocation of staff time. So I think this has gone up by more than the typical percentage we expected everything to go up on utilities.
5%.
Is this 5% more than it was last year?
On revenue line items for all the utility rates, they're all 5%.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah,
All right.
just what, probably would be nice to have a snippet of that part of the budget into each one of these things, so.
Oh, sorry, yeah, for the future.
Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 12C, garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, dated 2013, amendment bylaw number 637, dated 2024, recommendation that the garbage and recycling collection bylaw number 455, dated 2013, amendment bylaw number 637, dated 2024, be introduced and read for the first, second, and third time. Do we have a motion? Second.
Second.
Okay, comments, questions? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 12P, tax rate bylaw 635, dated 2024, recommendation that the tax rates bylaw number 635, dated 2024, be introduced and read for the first, second, and third time. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move an amendment before we, or discuss and possibly move an amendment before we vote on that motion.
Okay, and that amendment is?
Okay, my understanding is that the tax rate is set at with a 9% increase, is that right? Yeah, okay. I have difficulty with that, and my suggestion is that to amend the tax rate to represent a 6% tax increase. And I'd like to speak to that amendment.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? Amended, yeah,
I move to amend bylaw,
okay,
bylaw number
635.
635 to reflect a year-over-year increase of 6%
Okay,
versus the current 9% as presented.
do we have a seconder for that? All right, I'll second it so we can hear your discussion.
Okay, thank you. I think it's critical that we have as much funds, retain as much funds as we possibly can for infrastructure and asset building in the community and the maintenance of that infrastructure and our assets. We're a very small community, and I think we have the ability to adapt. We're a speedboat rather than a super tanker, so that we can really create outcome. My desire is to seek the best possible practices we can in our operations to try to secure the best efficiency we can in operations, and to ensure that the most funds possible go to very needed infrastructure and assets. We're currently have incorporated the 10% infrastructure levy surcharge built into our taxes year over year. So we're setting aside 10% of our taxes for infrastructure, which is incredibly important to do so. And together with the 9%, whether we consider that 19% difference or not, it's up for argument. Last year, our tax increase was 6%, and the argument there was that we would keep it fairly close to the inflation rate. This year, the current inflation rate is 2.68%, and we're to suggest a 9% tax increase. I don't think is acceptable. The 9% tax increase, well, the difference between 6% and 9% is a $53,000 difference in our overall taxes. And while that doesn't seem like a huge amount overall, it does represent, 3% to each resident. And over time, there will be a doubling and increasing of taxes. The taxes will then become, cumulative and build on one another. It's very difficult in our community to reach any kind of economies of scale. But there's certainly economies, I should say, that we can achieve by paying attention, by focus on costs, by being very conscious, by looking at outcomes, and to seek the incredible expertise of our volunteers. So I'm very concerned that the tax increase of 9%, which would mean if we continue that a 9% year over year, our taxes would double over the next 8 years. Whereas if we can keep it at the 6% figure, that it would take 12 years to double. So there's a whole other set of arguments that could be made around deferring taxes and my concerns about that. I have made those arguments in the past. Tax deferral erodes equity of individuals who may very, very definitely need it. We're certainly in a time when people are very concerned about cost of living. And I think, while it's not a huge amount, I think it's very symbolic and very important that we try to keep our tax increase at 6%, and that we aggressively seek out grant funding, and that we look for other means of generating income beyond our mill rate.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Broden. Any other comments? Yeah, Mr. Cherkoff.
Just for clarification, it's not 19% with the infrastructure, that's 10% of 9%. Yeah, so it's quite a lot lower than actually. I would.
It's 10% of the tax bill in total.
10% of the 9% increase, it's not 19% total. The current 5-year plan is not 9% year over year, it's presented as 9%, 5%, 3%, 3%. Of course, the council will review those percentages each year, as we always do in these meetings, but that's how it's currently being presented. And finally, just one point to consider for council is that we are anticipating significant increases in our overall annual wage costs with our new almost complete key negotiation. And such that an 9% increase would basically cover 6% of the cost of the annual increase in wages. And we would actually be at leftover 3%, which is what inflation would be for 2024.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Motion defeated. Okay, the original motion, all those in favor?
Can I just ask a question on that? So it says in here that the council must adopt a tax rate bylaw after the adoption of the financial plan. So I presume these are just the 3 readings. Are we then proposing that the adoption of the financial plan can occur seconds before the adoption of the tax rates, or how are we to understand this?
Mr. Cherkoff.
Maybe just on your agenda, part D is the tax rate, and part E is the financial plan, so it could be reversed.
Okay.
We're not adopting right now. So that would be for the next agenda.
Mr. Blackwell.
This is not an issue. The order right now for first 3 readings doesn't matter.
Okay.
It does for adoption,
Mhm.
it doesn't for the sake of this meeting.
So that was my question. So adoption matters.
Adoption matters.
Okay, so I presume it would then be reversed.
It would have to be reversed.
And seconds are all that are required to ensure that we're consistent with the community charter here.
Sorry,
So as long as we adopt the tax rates bylaw seconds after the adoption of the financial plan, then we're okay.
In sequence.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, so-
Councillor Abbott?
So that just seems at odds to me. Surely, if we adopt, not adopting, taking 3 readings, even as close as you can to adopt, the tax rate bylaw, it means we're done with the budget, we're done with the 5-year plan. Is that what we're saying here?
No.
So then why would we take all 3 readings to something that we haven't actually discussed and resolved yet?
Mr. Blackwell?
Council is entitled to give whatever readings it wishes to any of these bylaws. Council can choose to give any of these bylaws first reading and leave it there. From staff's perspective, council has met many times on this budget, and so it should have worked through all of the sort of questions and concerns, and it should be sort of straightforward at this point. If that's not council's view, then you can either have a discussion first, depending on the nature of the questions or the concerns, you can give the first 3 readings and have discussion around that, get clarification, etc. If the concerns are more substantive, then somebody may wish to only move first reading and take it a lot more slowly. I will tell you that you have a May deadline that is a month away. So bear that in mind. So you have flexibility, is that? That's the good news.
Okay, any other questions before we call the question?
One last question before we go on to question. So the Schedule A that we've got attached here didn't match, the numbers didn't match what the last one I'd seen. This is, something's changed here?
This is the last one you've seen. This is the first draft I prepared for this.
No, but we have this at the front of the budget.
Oh, no, that, the Schedule A, so,
The Schedule A, you said that afterwards.
Oh,
No, not that. The Schedule A that we attached on the table because it wasn't.
It was
attached to
based on
minutes,
6%.
Which is
The
the,
original one was based on 6%.
that was the only change?
The only change was it went to 9%, which was discussed as a scenario in previous meeting.
There was none other changes.
And then we included, the anticipated, HR costs, related to, our, where we expect to land with our.
Okay, and the grants number had changed as well.
The grant number, we've been in a couple iterations ago. I don't recall seeing anything change in the grants until the version was presented.
Okay,
So are we proposing to
We're
do all 3
proposing the
readings?
first and second and third reading. That's on the table. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry, wait a minute.
But we're,
I've understood your,
the original recommendation or motion is that the tax rate bylaw number 635 dated 2024 be introduced, read for the first, second, and third time. That was seconded, and we're now calling the question. Okay, so all those in favor? Once again? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Okay, item 12E, 2024, 2028, 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 632.
Sorry, if I could,
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
you need to approve a budget. You don't have a choice. Okay, you have until May 15th.
look at that.
So you need to provide some direction. It can't just die like this. You're running out of time. So you can't not make a decision.
So it was defeated 3-2. So what do you propose?
So there needs to be a new resolution. If council didn't like that, then there has to be something proposed until we can have something that staff can move ahead with, because we need a budget. There's no choice about that, around that.
I'm unable to propose my motion again, so if someone who voted against it wished to do that, they could get it on the table, get this motion on the table.
Okay, so you're saying we should propose a motion that would be first and second reading perhaps,
You could do first,
not
second,
include third.
You could do first
And
reading.
then we're getting the second
Somewhere.
base and we're getting closer. So do we have a motion to for the first and second reading?
I'll put that.
Okay, second. Okay. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Mr. Blackwell, any other suggestions?
I can tell you, in 30 years, I've never
I'll
seen
put
this.
forward I'll put forward the motion that we have the first reading.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
I'm opposed on the base that it's at 9%.
Okay, motion carried.
Could I have my negative vote, no, please?
Okay, item 12E, 2024-2028, 5-year financial plan bylaw number 632, 2024. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Sorry, the recommendation was, the motion is that 2024 to 2028 5-year financial plan bylaw number 632, 2024 be introduced and read for the first, second, and third time. Would someone like to propose a different motion? Okay, do we have a motion? Do you hear 3 readings? Okay, a second. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. We'll go to a second reading. Do we have a motion for a second reading, first and second? Okay, second is all in favor? Okay, opposed?
Opposed.
Votes on 9%, based on 9% for the 2024 year.
Okay, motion, the first and second, motion is carried, okay. We'll move to item number F, water bylaw 633, 2024. Recommendation is that council gives the first reading to a proposed new bylaw, water bylaw number 633, 2024, further direct staff as to its development. And we have a motion.
Sorry, I was trying to take us back one step. We can't not approve a financial plan, can't not approve the budget. Councillor Broughton has expressed his opinion on why he's voted against it. Other 2 members that didn't vote against it haven't expressed, well, haven't stressed an opinion that might be expressed before. Don't we need to continue this discussion somehow, rather than just move on?
I think so.
Or what are we planning to
Mr.
do? Are
Blackwell.
we gonna have another meeting, committee holding to discuss this further? What do we do?
So if we could, based on that decision, the only way to get this now passed is special council meetings. So you've run out of time now. So now it will be extra meetings in order to deal with this. So you've given the budget first reading. It'll come back to a special meeting of council for you just to debate second reading. But as always, if council, any member of council has any questions or concerns that it needs answered, reach out to staff. This has been, just as a reminder, this has been in front of Joe, how many committee of the holes?
Oh, since January 6th, 15 versions of the budget.
15 versions of the budget, so I would hope that council has, after 15 versions, sort of worked through these hiccups. But if it hasn't, reach out, I would encourage council, any member of council to reach out to staff to get clarification so that we don't have to have 3 more special meetings.
Okay, good. All right.
Can I just,
Your question?
Somewhat. I was thinking people should put forward their objections to the budget to see if we can resolve them. And maybe we can do that in the next meeting. Sure.
Caveat being unless there's anything that staff can provide to assist or support, in which case let us know, but if it's
Yeah.
something
Right.
else.
I would like to hope that the budget is not going to move again. I think this is the 15th version and it's never come back the same. So I would draw a line the same. It's a question of as to the numbers and changing the bits and the
Okay.
details.
All right, we'll reach out to staff if you've got any questions over the next week, and we'll try to get a special meeting to revisit this. Okay.
Can I just make
Yeah,
a comment?
Councilor Ryder.
Yeah. I mean, my objections are not the same as yours, or perhaps they're related, but it's more as to the process. And I'm gonna try to calibrate my words with the appropriate restraint here and be as circumspect as possible. The budget overall and the entire budget process is one that has been deeply concerning to me and fills me with a sense of dread as to the future of this community. There are a number of specific items in there that questions have been posed on, that answers haven't really been provided for. I think we've got chickens coming home to roost, and there will be more. And I think there's some gymnastics in there with vague line item descriptions and things that are unclear. And I think we need to do better here. I think that this council has created, and in the last year and a half presides over a pile of rubble. This is our legacy. We should be ashamed of ourselves, and we need to do better. And I hope that we get there. But this is a deeply disturbing moment for me personally.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. And that is the water bylaw 633, dated 2024, recommendation that council gives first reading to a proposed new bylaw, water bylaw 633, dated 2024, further direct staff as to its development. Okay, I see Mr. Blackwell stepped out, so Councillor Abbott.
We're potentially making an amendment to that before we start. I do not believe that we need a revised bylaw right now that incorporates water metering until we get some more discussion. I don't think we're ready for a bylaw. I also believe strongly that this is our future. I mean, we're wrong, and I expect this to happen. I think there needs to be some fulsome discussion on that. I also believe that we don't need a new bylaw in order to do a pilot project. And I've mentioned as a public works manager, I'm not sure if we're completely on the same page, but I think we're partially there. I believe the pilot project that he's proposing would inform the bylaw. And I think there's an element of the cart and the horse here the wrong way around. And I think we can move quickly to get this pilot project going and meet the near-term concerns and goals, as well as have a larger discussion about a new bylaw. So I'd like to propose that council, doing a motion on the fly here, I guess, that the council approves Public Works going ahead with the pilot project as planned, and that we take some more time to review the requirement for a new bylaw.
I'll second.
Okay, second, any discussion on the floor? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Burt, I didn't see you there. Quite honestly, I was gonna get your feedback and.
Oh, it's too late.
can we speak to it?
Can we speak to it and apologies, I did absolutely.
Well, there's no motion on the table. Staff's recommendation is in front of you. You've rejected it.
Mhm.
You've already voted on that, so there doesn't seem much point.
Do you wanna backfill some of the information here for those in the gallery as well as the councillors?
Staff's considered recommendation in the report in front of you is that we do need a new water bylaw. That recommendation is informed by legal counsel, by best practice, by many communities, and by our own thinking that we've been doing for many years. It's in front of you. At some point, we are going to need a new water bylaw. At the rate that council goes, this bylaw will be passed maybe in 4 months' time, long after the pilot's finished, by which time we may need to be enforcing its contents. hence the recommendation. And hence the recommendation and the report surrounding that, saying exactly that. So, yeah, I'm beyond stunned.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, would you like to comment on the proposed motion that was approved, or the amended motion?
The amended motion? Sure. I think there's a lot of stuff in here that need to be discussed. And
If I may,
there's
hence the one reading.
um,
I need council to read this thing. Perhaps that would be a good idea.
I've read it, yes, in detail.
Well, that's good. That's the
Yeah.
first reading. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I mean,
Councillor Broughton.
I think in terms of, in the spirit of we're trying to move things along, I would be prepared to reconsider the motion and hear more about this. We are talking about one reading. And that allows us to do more research, hear more about it, allow the pilot to go forward and so on. I think it would be.
Mr. Blackwell, how would we reconsider this?
I voted in favor of the motion, so I believe I can have it reconsidered.
Can I just say, can we not have the discussion and a discussion here at this moment?
No,
no.
What,
no,
Mr. Blackwell, how would we handle
This
this?
is all inappropriate. There's no matter on the table for council to be discussing. So if council wants to follow this procedures bylaw, then I'm citing that.
Okay, can we bring it back at the next special meeting that we will need to have for the
Can
budget?
we rescind the motion right now?
Yes.
Have some discussion?
Move that we rescind the motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Continue the
All in
discussion.
favor of rescinding the motion? Opposed?
yeah.
opposed?
Okay, motion carried, the motion is rescinded. Okay, and we'll go back to the original motion, which was that council give first reading to the proposed new bylaw, water bylaw number 633, dated 2024, and further direct staff and as to its development. Do we have a motion for that? Mr. Blackwell, before we,
If I could make a recommendation before you consider first reading, perhaps you can invite Mr. Burr to give you a quick summary of
Yes.
points. And based on that, you can consider whether or not you want to entertain first.
all right, Mr. Burr.
Am I
Floor is
speaking to
yours.
the motion or just talking?
No, you're just presenting.
Okay, so
Presenting a
Thank
good
you.
idea.
I specifically say in the report that this is not a debate about metering. Metering is going to be run by staff under an existing SCADA budget as a pilot. Vendor has been selected within purchasing policy. This is not about metering. The bylaw will enable metering when it comes, if the pilot is successful. The proposition is that the first probably 6 months, maybe as much as a year, will be dummy metered. This means that you will get a bill with nothing owing. You will continue to pay on the Schedule A to the existing water bylaw number 2 that you just voted on. So everybody will pay that this year. If people go onto real billing in the future for metered use, they would get credit for the flat rate that they paid already. This is not a debate about metering. That is a long way away, hence the need for a pilot to actually see how it works. Having said that, I've spoken to a lot of people, read a lot more than this document, which is just one example of the many that are available in terms of resources. The way that the bylaw, the proposed bylaw, covers how we would run a metered program is a good one. It encompasses just about every recommendation that there is out there and avoids many pitfalls that people found out the hard way, the early adopters. I don't want to speak more about metering than it deserves at this stage, other than to say we have picked a technology. We are in the process of installing it. The reason why we need metering in the future will be because we fix leaks and they come back. The leaks are 90% of the time on the private side of the curb stop. Why? Because they were installed on the cheap 20 to 50 years ago by cost-conscious developer or homeowner at the time, with, in some cases, suspect materials, and they're all breaking. We are finding an immense number on a weekly basis now. I won't bore you with the numbers, but our water consumption is about half where it was 3 months ago, simply because we're finding leaks. We have many more to find to get us through this summer, but that's not the issue, because leaks will come back. Without ongoing management, they will always come back, and that is what premise line metering is all about. You notice I say premise line metering. This is not installing a meter at the premise itself. We have to encompass the private side line for leak detection purposes, because we don't own that line. The owner owns that line. So the bylaw that you see is to update a 54-year-old bylaw. Bylaw number 2. Bylaw number 1 was an explosive bylaw, and we're still on the book. We don't actually use it very much anymore. But bylaw number 2 we use every year and has been amended 54 times with a new Schedule A. It's time for it to be updated. For example, just one of many examples, doesn't say anything about data privacy. It's a good bylaw. It encompasses the best of many people's bylaws, and as I say, skips many of the pitfalls. Legal counsel, the specific lawyer who looked at this for us was Metro's chief counsel, specifically involved in drafting their water regs. So he kind of knows water bylaws and actually made some pretty good suggestions, technical type suggestions. All I'm asking is that council get this onto the table for discussion. There will be public discussion necessary around every aspect of this bylaw. Again, I emphasize, metering is an operational technique. It doesn't need this bylaw to happen. To build metering would, because there needs to be an understanding of how, if there's a dispute, and if the meter doesn't work, and if somebody plays with a meter, and all those sorts of things. Bylaw number 2 allows metering. My plan was to not change bylaw number 2, simply to have a new tariff, a new Schedule A. Legal counsel was not so enamored of that idea, so I produced a new one based on some pretty good, mostly BC bylaws, but from around the place. I read a lot of water industry magazines, and when people did this the first time, they made quite a few mistakes. So the tariff that is proposed that you see in Schedule A is a good one. It's a tiered one, so it has different rates for winter and summer. It has a different rate over a low consumption threshold, but not too low. But that's all the detail of how metering would work down in the future. The main aspect of this bylaw that I need the power for as soon as possible is to force people to fix their service lines with proper materials, not on the cheap. We very often find a leak, somebody will do a spot fix, and well, we just had one this month. They did a spot fix and they had a new break, put it away a week later. This time they did replace the whole line as had been recommended, but not before they spent $10,000. So the real need, my real need for this bylaw is to be able to bill metered use one day down the road, and to get people to fix service lines. That's pretty much all I need to say. I mean, if there's any particular aspect of the bylaw that you didn't like, happy to speak to it, but it's just first reading. I just need council to read it the first time.
Councillor Brown, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to clarify that we received the bylaw at about 6:30 on Friday night. Page 177 to 265 of a 279 page agenda. So I think where I was coming from in terms of postponing any decision was taking some time, hearing a more fulsome bit of background. I think doing first reading makes lots of sense. So I just wanted to give a context in terms of that. And also interesting, I mean, we've been going since 5 o'clock, so I think maybe we're a little bit,
Punchy.
maybe a little bit punchy, yeah. And the fact that the mayor actually didn't see you at the end of the table, I think is sort of speaks to that.
I was baffled, actually. I was looking for did you just walk up or were you there the whole time? Cause you were in stealth mode.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so that was, yeah, so we've been going for 5 hours at this point. So anyway, having said all that, I would support a first reading, and certainly we'll be very interested. I enjoyed reading, I did read all the information, and I have some thoughts about comparisons with Richmond and, you know, some of the comparisons and stuff, but that's for another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? Councillor Abbott?
Okay, so given we a year away from needing the water metering part of this, which is the biggest part, why do you say that the existing bylaw doesn't allow you to force people to fix leaks?
It doesn't, not how, it's, I can switch their water off, that's all. I can't tell them what materials they're allowed to use. I can't tell them that there's no provision for inspection before backfill. There's just not enough. The previous bylaw, number 2, remember, was written to connect new houses to new water service. It wasn't contemplated that one day they'd be 50 years old.
Okay, but you can turn the water off and make sure we're not leaking.
That would be beyond the last resort.
And you could encourage them to use the right materials and do it right.
I can only do that by the sheer force of personality, sometimes insufficient.
Okay, Councillor Broughton, please raise your hand. You want to speak, Councillor Broughton?
Yeah, in terms of putting in the materials that go into the water line, would that not be within the building bylaw or?
Well, BC plumbing code, there are some we don't, the BC plumbing code, for example, would allow Schedule 80 PVC, but we don't like it.
Okay, Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, so that part of it, there's a whole lot of things in there that I was not sure about. The material specification, what was meant by this trace. You have to put a trace in if you use a plastic type pipe.
Yeah.
So there's and I'm not quite sure how that trace works. This is a leak detection trace, why?
No, endoscope, so you could, a metal detector.
So you can find
So you
plastic.
can find the
it.
pipe. Oh, that's what I was
Find
gonna
the pipe,
Okay, I thought it was leak detection.
No, nothing to
Which
do-
is much more complicated than the
This
wire.
bylaw is not about leaks,
Okay,
but I guess it is.
it's all about leaks. Okay.
No leaks.
There's one example. I read this. So there's a lot of things I think we need to think. There's a lot of potential pitfalls and potentially unintended consequences here. I think we're probably more than a year away from having any metering because I don't think we have many meters in a year's time anyway. And let's suddenly find some money. What that cost. So there's a whole lot of things in here that I really think we need to have time to review and discuss. But so to my point of why I don't think we needed a first reading, I still think you can do everything you need to do without a first reading. And it is on the table because we've got it in front of us and we've also done it.
Mr. Blackwell?
Suggestion for council, if council has a significant number of questions and concerns, then the appropriate venue to sort of consider those would be the committee of the whole meeting. You don't want to get into that at a regular council meeting. So we can schedule a committee, it can be dedicated just to this topic, whatever.
So do you recommend the first reading here as proposed?
Sure. I mean,
And then we have a committee of the whole and if we get Mr. Rob to come to that as well and speak to it. Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, Carl, it seems to me that, I have a problem with the first reading specifically because we've got a Schedule A in front of us that's got blank spots on it. And it seems to me we've got, a bird sitting on the runway here, requesting clearance for some kind of takeoff that hasn't even filed a flight plan and much less has passed any inspections. I mean, my reading of the agenda is page 118 and 126 indicate some cooperative effort by the IC and the CAC on metering. I understand there's some grant money that is potentially available for that kind of thing. I mean, I've got various things that I could specifically address in here that I've gone through in detail and made some notes on, but that is in principle, my objection is to even giving a first reading to something that has blank spots on Schedule A.
Well, this is a first reading Schedule A.
Yeah.
The Schedule A that you just passed is the one that governs. When I wrote this, I didn't know what the Schedule A rates would be.
So you would be able to fill those in right now if we had the time.
Well, yeah, for the second reading, third reading, and adoption, but which won't take place for months. This Schedule A will replace the Schedule A if this bylaw is adopted this year.
Sure, you understand my point, is that I have a hard time giving a first reading to something that has a Schedule A attached that has two TBD in it, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, all I'm asking for is first reading. The Schedule A in the current bylaw number 2 is the one that governs at the moment. This one will take over if the bylaw passes one day.
Right. Could I just ask one more question? I mean, I've gone through and done a little calculation here. You know, the paying it over 10 years, I've just done a sort of a yearly add up here. If I have this right, there's a base cost of 600 and then a pipe charge, you know, most of us are on 3/4, so you'd be at about $300 and you'd be paying what, a meter's what, 3,000? Yeah, so you'd be paying what, 300 in the first year? And you're paying a tenth a year, or are you paying it all up front?
Keeping up front.
Paying it all up front?
If you volunteer for a meter.
Right.
Because we don't have the funding today.
Yeah.
You would pay for it.
Yeah.
I'll be the first volunteer, by the way.
Okay.
And you would get it back over 10 years. In other words, you wouldn't pay the annual service charge.
Okay, so I'm just gonna amortize that out and say I'm paying 300 in the first year. And then I've taken your $1.65 times 3, which I think is pretty high usage. Yeah. But multiplied that by 365 days, that's $1,700. So I'm coming up with $3,000 here.
No, you should be up around 2,100, same as you're paying today.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, and again, these numbers need to be modeled out. You notice I even put in here a placeholder because I didn't know what the water budget was.
Sure. I'd also like to just make one other point, which is, I've lived in an area where there's water metering, and there's a provision in there that I think would make sense to add into this, which is if somebody, say, according to the billing that they receive, have unusually high billing, that obviously there must be some kind of leak occurring on the private side, that there's some kind of provision in there for an incentive to fix that leak by providing them with a compensation for the amount that's over their average use or something like that.
I have text for that.
Yeah.
The administration would be exceptionally difficult, which is why I took it out.
How so?
Because
I've had it, for example, I had a high water bill and I said, what the heck's going on?
I'm talking about the administration for Lions Bay as it currently exists. We need our own billing department. Whereas this would get billed straight through the accounting platform. Maze produces, it's almost untouched by human hand. So we could in fact bill monthly if we wanted to, but the proposition would be quarterly. So I'm aware of that and I'm quite happy to consider it because I like it. So that
it provides an incentive.
So just for council to know that if your usage is highly excessive and your next bill, that usage is gone, just back down to the threshold, you'll get it back.
Or if you provide some proof of remediating what was obviously a leak, for example,
Yeah, I mean, the whole intent here is not to overcharge people for water, although we do have a water budget we have to cover. It's 1.129 this year, I now know, I found that out this afternoon. So somebody has to pay that, but if you are one of the ones who are prepared to use less water, you will pay less than you pay today, and vice versa.
Council Brown.
Two points. Actually, before I make a motion, but one is what is the incentive to volunteer? Why would somebody volunteer?
Because you use less water than average, so your bill will go down.
So if you think, okay, so the early adopters are gonna be the low users.
Well, the early adopters are actually gonna get a sweet deal until we have universal metering, because they will only pay for their usage. They will somewhat pay for village-wide leakage in the $600 flat, flat fee. And this is best practice. You can't just charge for usage because then people will.
No.
Somebody has to pay for,
Somebody's gotta pay for the.
it's called
pipes.
non-revenue water. Somebody has to pay for it. And that's what the 600, what's that? It's what the annual charge is for. But initially, you will do well.
Okay.
Which is why I'm volunteering
That's
first.
the incentive.
Just one follow-up. Again, in terms of incentive, I mean, we want to provide low charges for people who use little and penalize those who use a lot, and presumably we have to make up a budget somehow. But again, to return to those figures, if I had 300 for 1/10 of 3,000, and then a base charge is 600, and then a pipe charge at a 3/4 inch pipe of 300, and then $1.65 times 3 over 365 days a year, I'm coming up with $2,952. Where's my incentive?
You mustn't use 3 cubic meters a day then. You must use less.
Yes, okay, I do, in fact, but you built that in as an average usage.
Yeah, I mean, a cubic meter, so everyone knows, 1,000 liters.
Yes,
Per capita consumption, when even in Lions Bay, once we back out leakage, we're at around 300 liters per person per day in Lions Bay, which is about right. So, you know, an average house of, let's say, 3 people should be using about a cubic meter a day of water, including gardening. So these numbers, these numbers have been modeled out for sensitivity to make absolutely sure we don't get caught with our pants down in terms of the budget. Somebody has, overall, we have to pay $1.1 million for water. How you handle that on an ongoing basis is some years there will be a shortfall because people use less water than anticipated. You have to then make that up the next year in change rates. And so you'll never actually hit it on the dot using metered billing like you can with a flat rate because it's very easy. You just do the math. But that's the nature of metered billing.
Okay, we're gonna go around the table one more time and then we'll decide whether we want to put forward this motion. Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I guess we're going down the rabbit hole I was trying to avoid. I wanted to get to a meeting and have a big discussion about this, but just one question. I don't understand the logic for the additional charge for the size of your connection. Is that the cost of the meters
It's
big
the
more?
cost of the meter. The idea is you pay for a new meter every 10 years.
And the meters cost more the bigger they get. Okay, that's all it is. Because I was thinking, what's the point of that? Because you can still use a small amount through a big pipe. But it's the cost of the meter.
It's to pay for the meter, yeah. And its installation.
Right.
So the meters only last 10 years?
Well, the batteries last 20 years, so they say. I'll believe that in 20 years' time, if I'm still alive. But I'm providing for, and then there will be a fund to put in more meters for whatever reason. My hope is that funding will be made available to University Meter at Lions Bay with $1.8 million. It's not a huge amount of money.
So,
but it's significant.
so about 3
It's more than
grand.
that.
Okay, it comes to about 3 grand. Okay. So if they only last 10 years, you're always going to be buying a meter on this plane. You're going to amortize over 10 years. So it's not like you get to the end of 10 years and now you own a meter and now you're free and clear. So you're always going to be paying the extra $300.
Oh, yes.
It's not apparent to you. That's a different way to think about it.
Well, we can, if you think it's too much, a future council can reduce that. If it turns out the meters are lasting 20 years, that's great.
All right.
But again,
Councillor Broughton?
I'm uncomfortable with the concept of penalizing high use. I understand, I mean, we're trying to identify leaks and so on, but we're putting a situation here where an empty, to the SVT discussion perhaps, if you have somebody with an empty home using no water, they'd be paying the flat fee, there'd be a saving there. Somebody with a family is gonna be paying, for a lot of water. So I just think we need to look very carefully and not look at what the high use is about. I think that the idea is it's an incentive to obviously to conserve water.
Okay,
But we want to be cautious around the penalty. Anyway, that's a big
Thank you.
discussion.
okay, we've all had a chance to speak twice. With that,
Could I make a motion?
yeah,
I move that we amend the bylaw to include the figures from this year's section A, I should say, sorry, I'm punching now at this point.
Schedule A.
Schedule A, thank you. That we include, with the inclusion of the numbers from Schedule A in the proposed bylaw, that we, I move that we, do the first reading.
Okay, we have a second for that? Okay, all in favor with the amended motion?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. We'll go back to the original motion. Does someone want to make that motion?
That wasn't,
That it was that council give the first reading to the proposed new bylaw, water bylaw number 633/2024, and further direct staff as to the development. That motion for that, second. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion defeated. Okay, move to item number 13, list of correspondence, and that is, Councilor Broughton, I believe. You passed the baton, have you not?
sorry, before we got, there was an edit item, in the new business.
Yes.
We're in
Correspondence is first, and then we'll go to new business.
Yeah, we're in correspondence.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, I believe it's, Councilor Cunliffe,
Is it?
I think it is you. And, no,
Yeah.
okay.
Still me?
Councilor Ryder,
Is it on Twitter?
No, it's still you, it's still.
Still me.
okay, apologies, I thought we
Okay,
shifted.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay,
Councilor Broughton. Highlighted
we went through
the
this last week in terms of the fact that the letters are in the agenda. That they are in fact.
Sorry, Michael.
Excuse me, just that they're in the agenda, that they are in fact received. So, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I figured it out.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so, so the letters have as such been received. I would just like to point out a couple of areas of concern in a couple of the letters, if that's council's
Okay,
open to that.
highlight, sure.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate the letter from Ms. Dudley, and just a bit concerned that I think we have discussed this round and round in terms of the fact that my belief is that the 65 residents who signed the petition did so on the basis of the information that was provided in the petition. And I've taken a very strong position about that in council meeting, and so just pointing that out. Just another quick point is that she's asking at the bottom why, thanking the volunteers for all the time, but questioning why, with all this volunteerism, why $77,000 was still spent on consultants. And I just wanted to point out that in fact, the bulk of those funds was spent by previous council on the project and on the consultants that were involved there. And that in fact, I believe it's $37,000 what is part of the design, which has taken the project all the way to having a building permit issued. So there's a significant amount of work been done. However, there's a significant amount of work to do. So there we go. Also, if I could just turn to Ms. Rogers' letter for a second. It sort of speaks to my point earlier on about the 6% tax increase. I believe that we absolutely must maximize our investment in all our assets and all our infrastructure, but she took exception to the beach park being funded to the extent that it was. And I wanted to point out that the beach park is identified by many as sort of the jewel of the village, and that it really does enhance our property values, and that we should take that into consideration as well. Certainly, having great pipes is important, but I think the reason why people move to Lions Bay is a lot more than plumbing. So I think we need to be aware of that. Also, I just wanted to amplify my comments about just, we're 16 months into our term, I think it is, something like that. And that, I think this council is turning its head to its focus to creating outcome and to creating real efficiencies. And I'm really hoping that we can work together to create the most efficient community we have and call on the
All right,
volunteers.
Councilor Bronson, ready to go on? We'll stick to the letters if we can. And
Okay,
Any
I was
others?
speaking to the letters. So.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Councilor Ryder,
Go ahead.
Councilor Abbott.
No, just one comment on this petition signed by 65 people, actually more than, but I read that after the fact, after all the debate last week and going on, and to this point that these numbers are based on the reports that came out of your reports. That, oh, Michael, the math adds. It's all based on what you had actually said. So if there's inaccuracies, it's based on your inaccuracies. I think we should just let this one go, let it stand. The math adds up if you compare it to what has been reported. I think it's time that council, now it's in staff's hands, actually put an actual budget out of where the beach park is, so that we can all just move on.
I believe that, but
Okay, I think I'll interrupt us there. Mr. Blackwell, it's in staff's hands, is it not?
That's correct.
Okay, so unless staff comes back and reports something different, I think we just leave it. That, Councilor Ryder?
Yeah, we had a resident step up and speak to her letter, which is on page 277. And had asked that the attachments that she had sent be added. And I would request for the same. Clearly, they're in the public domain, and she had attached them. So I would ask that those be added to the record. Is that something we can
I
do?
believe they were already linked, is that right?
There, no,
What are the website notes?
They're on the website, okay. All right, any other comments, questions? No? Okay, we'll move to new business. Councilor Abbott, the motion that was forwarded, and I believe we're going to put that up on screen as
Yeah.
I didn't receive it prior to the meeting, so.
You're gonna put the email, the letter from North Valley, you might as well just put that on screen. And I can just,
just a letter or your email?
no, you can just put the letter out. I can paraphrase my email. With all this is really attached to that. Okay, so just quickly, so there's what you're getting is a letter from the district of Northman's mayor, Mike Little. I sent council an email early last week. Councillor Betty Forbes from District of North Van contacted me and said this letter would be coming, and she wanted us to get into the agenda package for this week. And when the agenda package rolled around, I called and it wasn't there, and the mayor wasn't around. And anyway, it took some time, and then she phoned me up today, and finally we got it 15 minutes before the meeting. So that's the reason why it's late. It's not late because of necessarily happened last minute, but just took time to get through the admin in the district of Northland. What it's about is there was a presentation to the district of Northland about essentially about conservation officers and their mandate generally, but mainly about young bear cubs, and that's what this resolution reads to, and how conservation officers needs to handle young bear cubs. Now, I'll just remind everyone, when we had that bear cub rescued a couple of years back, year and a half back, we became pretty familiar with this. So the Conservation Office Service cannot rescue a bear cub, as bizarre as it sounds. They can destroy a bear cub, but in order to rescue a bear cub, they need to get a permit from the Ministry of Land and Resource Stewardship. You might remember this from the issue we had before. We went up against them when we tried to get that bear cub rescued. In that case, the Conservation Office came out with a trap to capture the bear cub for us and take it to critical care. We were waiting for it. But then the cub wasn't there. When they came back, when we called them the second time, they said, oops, sorry, you've been told, first you have to get a permit. I can't come out and help you. Similar thing has happened on the island recently. People probably saw the news. The cub was at the side of the highway, and there's a whole bunch of people stopped and shooting it off the highway, hoping the conservation office would come and capture it. They didn't. there was an office, there was a rescue centre 30 minutes away that was prepared to take it. So that's essentially the main reason for this. Now, this is going to LGLMA, and that's the reason why I want to, it is kind of time bound. So I guess that's my motivation for supporting it, and I'm hoping council can support it. What they ask is that we produce a resolution. I'll put forward a motion that the village of Lions Bay, I mean, you can read it from my email. What did I say? It was only one sentence.
Yeah, the Lions Bay Council supports the District of North Vancouver motion. Black Bear Cup conflict response by British Columbia Conservation Officer Service at both LMLGA and GBCN conferences.
Okay, so that's the motion. And then I guess everyone can read on the screen what we'd be supporting. Does anyone want me to read through this, or has everyone just read it? And I can take questions after. You read it? Okay. All right. So I can take questions, Michael.
I'll second your motion just to get it
Oh,
on the
second
floor.
motion?
Yep.
Okay, questions?
Just a point of clarification, I support the motion, and but an item came up a couple of weeks ago, and I was just wanting direction, whether Councillor Abbott and Councillor Ritter would be voting on this motion based on the fact that you're both active members of Bear Smart. Is that a conflict? And would that diminish? Because I think council should support this motion, but just a structural thing, that just.
Okay, I'll speak to that.
Councillor,
Sure. I'm a chair of many committees. Climate action, infrastructure. I vote in all of those motions and resolutions. I'm not going to exclude myself from that just because I chair the committee. The same way you vote on the beach park things, you don't exclude yourself from because you're the chair of the committee. So absolutely, I'm not going to accuse myself.
Can I just, I think,
Councillor Ryder?
yeah, so we essentially be supporting what the District of North Van is taking.
Yep.
And I believe that it's already been received favorably by West Van Council.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't mention it. It's been to West Van Council as well. They've received it favorably. Everyone seemed to be in agreement. They didn't pass a motion because of their procedures. That's not how it works. But the expectation is they will also pass a similar motion before the LGLMA. So the idea was to get the North Shore municipalities all supporting this to the LGLMA, saying the North Shore municipalities, and then from there it would grow wider to other municipalities in the province prior to the UBC.
So just to finish up here, so what we've essentially got from us is then a letter from the North Van District Mayor asking us to support this and support them.
Yeah.
And I presume, Jamie, you would be taking this on May 2nd for us?
It will come to the floor.
Okay.
And it'll be a vote.
Okay.
Can you expand on the independent civilian-led oversight board?
The independent civilian-led oversight board. Yeah, so they felt that there is another request to have some sort of civilian-led board. They put in what was put forward was said that virtually every, or not virtually every office, enforcement office, have a civilian board, no different to the RCMP, other police forces. They always have some sort of civilian entity that oversees them at some level, at a higher level, on an annual basis or whatever. The Conservation Office Service do not have that. So they felt that would be another important recommendation.
So this would bring it into line with other.
So bring in line with
Councillor Brown.
Through the chair. I don't want to dwell on this, but I'm trying to get the procedure sorted here. As chairs of Lions Bay committees or of council committees, it's one matter. Is Bear Smart actually a council committee? It's actually not. It's my understanding. So I'm what I'm trying to determine.
Okay, so we've had this discussion at least half a dozen times. I'll try to do it one last time.
Well, just a second.
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
Yes, my question. Okay, on the previous council, when we had all this, the Bay activity got bigger and we had all these issues.
Right.
I brought to council a resolution, which I've shared with everyone, and you will see. I asked council.
I'm questioning your transparency.
No, I asked council,
Yeah.
that we wanted to reinvent the best smart committee. Because previously it had been called a committee. The CAO particularly, and council in general, advised me not to make it a committee of council because I wanted to start doing things about changing routing of garbage trucks. And you can't do that if you're a committee of council, because every single recommendation has to come back to the next council meeting to get approved, so you can never be effective. So they suggested that it was not a committee of council, but they supported me in taking that action. So that's why it was never, second time around, made an official committee of council. That's the answer to that. But it is what it was endorsed by the council that I should go forward with this. I think we started calling the baseball team at the time, to be honest. We did call it the baseball team for quite a while. Afterwards, somehow the name committee got back into it. I'm not sure why, but that's where it was. So they endorsed the baseball team, endorsed the actions we were doing, but it was not a committee of council. And that's the way it stands today until someone wants to change it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, it was a question that was asked of me of a committee that I serve on. And I just was wanting to clarify if I was bringing something that would connect with that, even though it would have no benefit to me personally, whether that's, it actually came up ahead of legal counsel coming last.
I think it's
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah. Okay.
No?
Anyway, I'm supportive and attended the memorial for the bear and so
Okay,
certainly
we'll call the
supported the
question.
Bears one, so I don't want that misunderstood.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next item is public questions. Anyone in the gallery wish to ask a question, comment? Okay, anyone online? Marina?
No, we don't have anybody online.
Okay, we'll move to the resumption of the closed meeting. Do we have a motion to move back into closed? Okay, second. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, the public. We'll just take a few minute break.